This is a Bolivian band called Huayna Rap. They sing rap in Aymara. Yeah, it's like rapping Cree or Nestolo. And I am fascinated by this type of content because, again, it shows the blending, the mestizaje, the growing together, the coming together of cultures, right? And I don't understand a word, but I found an English translation, so I can send it along, okay? And it is, the translation that is in Spanish, so sorry. But I found the lyrics in an English translation, and it's fantastic, the song. So yeah, I've been investigating a bit, and for example, in South America, this content in the city of Lima, the people I know, they were fun, cool, right? They will not speak too much to them. But I think it's fair, not only that I present it, but the more important thing is I like it. I like it, and I think if I like it, other people is gonna like it. And why not to bring content that perhaps will not be that popular? But speaks. This band is part of a complete scene of rap and hip hop in the city of El Alto. El Alto is where the airport of La Paz is, the international airport of El Alto. La Paz, the capital city, is just down there. I lived in Bolivia for 2 years. It's just down, 1,000 meters down. In car. Yeah, you feel the difference from one city to the other, and they have educated themselves in music production, in broadcasting, and in recording. They do it all, do it yourself, thanks to Google. And they have all computers that people throw to the garbage, they fix it. It's an unbelievable social movement that collects the disenchantment of young people. So I found it unbelievably meaningful, powerful, and this thing of the indigenous languages getting under my skin. I don't know. It just really touches me. It really touches me, and I want to show this a little bit. This video doesn't need an introduction, right? Roxanne by Lucho Quequesana is a charango player. That little guitar is called charango. And the young orchestra is symphonic orchestra player Roxanne. Only that is already cool, right? And the lady, Renata Flores, she's 15-year-old at the moment. Yeah, and she's singing Roxanne in Quechua. Well, she has this amazing blues voice. She's just, wow, way too much. Recently, I found a couple of years ago, I developed over Facebook a relationship with her. And this video has been recently uploaded. There is not yet a YouTube version. It's 4 days ago. I asked Lucho Quequesana, the head of this project, to send me an MP3, but he still has not seen my email. Wow. Patience. It'll come. Okay, then fusion and experimentation. That is the favorite thing that that my show prefers and that I strive to bring. And this thing you see here, oh, excuse me, this, yeah, the Why Not Rap, you remember the Rapping Nightmare? That was part of the soundtrack of a big Hollywood movie called Our Brand is Crisis, starred by Sandra Bullock and Bobby Joe, the one that was married with Angelina Jolie, one of her 25 marriages. Billy something, Billy Joe, Billy Bob, Johnny Bob, something like that. Yeah. Billy Bob, thank you. Okay, so yeah, and so we see the reach out of all this, right? And that is what I'm trying, because no one knows this. Because someone intentionally left it out. Well, that's what I try. I try to be the room where the left outs or the never reach go in. I think it's fair for them and fair for the audience, right? Especially because no one has to push me to play this or that. I love the freedom of the campus and community radio. My episodes are always tainted with cultural clash anecdotes, similarities, differences shape the show. Similarities between experiences of young bands, upcoming bands, indigenous groups, or immigrants. Because there is this thing, we all are immigrants. I mean, there have been immigration since million years ago. I mean, who can tell that completely they come from one place? Well, we come from planet Earth, oh, we know that. That's it, right? So the similarities between immigrant experience, young upcoming bands, bands with low resources, all that, we all are humans and we go through similar stuff. And that is what I try to collect and share. Also, I have, like I was saying, the local Latin news and the community involvement. I'm always talking, giving room to the Vancouver Latin American Film Festival to promote them, their events and their portrayals of Latin movies. They have a great Latin American selection of films yearly. The show is very well done. It's already, this year it's called the Quinceañera because it has 15 years consecutively having it. So even the invitation has a quinceañera dress. It's so cool, I love it. And I also try to pull news from the region, from the area that impact on the Latin people or have to be with the Latin community that, again, can speak to both Latins that immigrate and Canadians that, or residents who want to be a bit curious, are open, right? And like I was saying, interviews. One thing led to the other. Oh yeah, this is the thing. Recently I finished a documentary podcast. I like to coin the word podcast called Indigenous Language in Music. And I interviewed an NCRC writer in residence here in campus for the perspective of what is doing music or anything in an indigenous language. And it was a wonderful experience for me. I played the music of Uchpa, one of the bands you saw today. And the curiosity. Uchpa is a Peruvian band, the one that had the two shoes crossed, the two legs crossed, one foot with the sandal and one foot with the boot. That's a Peruvian band called Uchpa. It's one of my favorites since always. And I was just curious, I was thinking, would there be rock in Guarani? And yeah, I Googled it and I found the band. And I interviewed them for the documentary and I played their music generally in the show. And like I was saying, I developed a relationship over Facebook and YouTube with other musicians like Renata, the young lady. Her mom had to get involved to give permission for the interview and why not, and it worked fantastically. And this was done in the framework of the Radio Mini School, an education project that CIBL put together recently. Many very experienced radio producer, podcaster, journalists came to give us workshops. It was just, wow, luxury really. I think some people from SFU came too. Well, this is a picture of, I was not even a year on the air. My former co-host, buddy Johnny, he took this picture. Thank you for volunteering in radio like me. thank you for that. We, like I was saying yesterday, we are sort of a tribe, sort of a family on our own. Thank you for doing all that, and please, questions, whatever you want to comment, share. Now is your turn.
Question, you want to still continue or block it?
Yeah, but now I can handle it because it's going to be most interesting. Thank you. It's for my husband, he couldn't make it. Okay.
One comment, maybe question, I don't know. My own experiences in trying to share culture from coming from away, let's say here, is we have to, because it has to go both ways. Let's say that you open to the way people behave here, and people here from here have to open to share, like to accept what the other people bring here. But a lot of time it doesn't go both ways, because people coming from away, it's hard for them like to be open to what, beside searching for a job and to fit themselves and things like that, but to really share and accept. Let's say a show is to be done by a group of here, really, and they don't go there, and people from here, they don't go, and it's hard to like put those barriers. But what I'm trying to do, I think it really work better, is when having an event, is because I'm doing, beside all the things I'm doing event, I always try to put something really similar. Let's say, take something from here, put it in the show, and get involved. And we have the 150th anniversary of Canada, and we had we have an annual event about our own community, a flag, etc. And I put like a team with like really flag in Canada, something like that, to bring the people from here in the event, and they was there. But I think one of the difficult part is the kind of, sometimes the person, they try to protect themselves, and then when they open too much, they think that they're losing something. But people from here also, sometimes they're not used to something different. It's like they're losing themselves, and you have to find a way to people feel safe. And I like, yesterday we had that exercise that we did, and when the leader, she made a difference between feeling safe and feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
To have that, you have to feel uncomfortable because you're not used to the way they eat, but you have to feel. But as long as it don't kill you, you have to open. And sometimes that, I think it can be a solution for that. I like the way she tells that. I think we can apply in the cultural thing.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
When I was doing the documentary, the docu-podcast, like I was saying, I contacted many indigenous bands and singers, and I don't know at what point I made them even feel unsafe, uncomfortable, or maybe not me, maybe they just generally when people, they don't know, I don't know. I want to know what I did that didn't work so I can improve it the next time, right? But that was something that I was wondering, what did I do? How can I make this work? Because they either too busy, or they either don't trust, or they either not interested. So what is that I am missing, that I'm not being engaging enough, that I'm not even getting their curiosity tickled, right? But hopefully I'll learn.
One thing that is a way I've framed things when I've been trying to teach volunteers and stuff about interviewing is separating whether or not you are doing something that's like a documentary where there's a story to tell, and as the editor, you have a voice in shaping it, but you might not have like an actual literal voice. Like you might be capturing people and their own elements, sharing their perspectives and telling that story, as opposed to when you are capturing a conversation. And if you're capturing a conversation, if your role is to come at it from your genuine place and not make assumptions, then it's so much more about asking and so much more about listening. and so much more about admitting what you don't know. So when I go into spaces and I go to different neighborhoods around the city to collect radio stories and engage with people, that's part of my job at the radio station. And so I go in and admit that I don't know who lives there and I don't know their stories yet, and that I won't know them. I'll know more of them, I'll meet more of them as I'm there, but I can't learn to feel like they feel. I need to know the entire time that I'm gonna have my own perception and my own kind of like cloak over it. But if it's a conversation, it's okay, because then you are admitting that you're one side and they're one side. So that's where I feel like the interculturality comes into play. It's both of you being authentically you and then meeting for this sharing of information, as opposed to capturing it like you're a fly on the wall and presenting it entirely as their own, in which case you should try not to impact it at all. So I think that's like a very big difference, and sometimes people put them in the same category, but they're very, very different ways of capturing stories and sharing information.
Thank you for that insight. Certainly, yeah, I acknowledge that. Don't treat me like I'm a bug in a yard, because many times I felt it myself and it really bugs me. But certainly, probably the word documentary is what played against. Maybe I should have just approached it like I would like to learn your story, right?
Yeah,
Thank
well,
you.
it's different for
you.
different people, and it just depends on your intention. But being able to separate them is such an important part of the trust, because if they know that you're not, that you're going to come at it from you, then it's a different thing.
Thank you.
I have a slightly different kind of angle from it. We would really like to attract a diversity of voices to our program, to volunteer on the program. And some of the feedback I've gotten when I ask people how to do this is, well, you know, like, people don't want to come on and be the token whatever. Like, the show I work on is about co-ops, so we really want to get these different perspectives, and we kind of have white male and white female covered, but that's about it. And a little bit of the youth. So I wonder how you can go out and create a space where people feel safe to come onto the program and get that interculturality going that way from a programmer perspective more than so they can create their content.
Well, if you go to the house to your neighbor, you're having an intercultural experience, because may not be big, but it's gonna be, because every family has a culture and a different background, and as many groups, we develop an internal dynamic. So if you move to live with my neighbor and I stay there beyond supper, I spend the night, then I'm gonna see a whole spectrum that I never saw before. So I think the awareness of that possibility always there helps. And also, what I do always is I try to go, I do my homework before. Before I interview, for example, the professor here, Jordan Abel, I Google him, look at his bio, and I also did my job of where is the indigenous rock topic, at what stage is now. Also, I found out a documentary about the indigenous roots of every rock musician. They interview Iggy Pop and blah blah blah. It's fantastic. And then there is a Canadian collection of indigenous rock, but includes any lyric language, not only indigenous language. And mostly there are 2 or 3 only with indigenous language in the lyrics. So I did my job. I Googled indigenous language. I found resources in New Zealand and Australia. Australia has even government funds for indigenous rock, Aboriginal rock. We should have that in Canada, right? Yeah, no, I'm not joking. I'm serious. So then when I approach him, because of the natural connection we have here in British Columbia with indigenous communities, especially in UFB, which indigenizes the curricula, I had an idea how to approach him, how to talk to him, and with the ideas I already had of the music produced in indigenous language in other parts, and having contacted the musicians, with all this background on me, I approached him, and then the connection, I think I walked in, like, you know me, smiley, and he was like, I think somewhat, he didn't expect something on me. There was an element of surprise in that initial moment, but was for good. At the end of the conversation, and I put it at the end of the documentary, it just almost made me cry, because I asked him, tell me a word, please, that you think will envelop your feelings. And he said, joy. I feel joy after this interview. Me too, and we end up laughing. So is this in previous information and my questioning, having clear what is that is bothering my mind. We even talk about the land. We talk about how realistic it would be to have the land return, and what is the point to go forward with the revitalization of the language. I did not expect, I put in my mind, I'm not gonna talk about political issues because I don't want to make him feel bad. I'm gonna talk about, we end up, and he liked it. So all this, how can I say, foreplay I did to the interview allowed me to have a deep connection quickly, create a rapport. And once you create a rapport, this kind of language, the interaction language, right? It's a bit verbal and a bit not verbal, like Robin, thank you. Robin was teaching us yesterday, right? This rapport is gonna let you help the case of making them feel comfortable and safe. But the rapport is not only an emotional movement, it's try to work a bit of a foreplay, right?
I know you totally discovered this in your presentation. I wasn't writing fast enough, but can you give one, explain again why you chose to do your show in English rather than in Spanish?
Well, I have many experiences where, for example, people was telling me, oh, there's this show, Devious Maid, you should watch it. So I went to watch it, and there was this story, it's sort of this American soapies, totally corny, but anyway, the point is, the story of 5 maids that all are Latin, and all are social climbers, one is live with the boss, and I felt insulted that someone recommended me to see that show. I mean, like, I don't think all the maids in US are Latin, and in any case, not all are hot, and not all are social climbers. And, excuse me, why do you think I would like it? Why? Someone please explain it to me, right? No one can. Don't worry, I don't expect an explanation anymore. Then, here, in class, one student called me one day mail order bride, because my husband is Canadian and Peruvian.
What did he call me?
Mail order bride.
Oh.
And I just, oh, thank you. That's exactly what I need to hear. And everybody was always asking me, oh, do you teach salsa? No, I don't. Sorry, I don't. I disappoint you. I'm sorry, but I don't teach salsa. So then I saw, well, this experience come in a pattern, but they do not respond to a bad intention. Many people sometimes act in such a way because they're insecure until something that you don't know, you see it for the first time. What if a Martian comes in? I'm not saying I'm a Martian. Oh, probably. Or maybe. Doesn't matter. But let's say a Martian walks in. How are we going to react? So the new sometimes bring this edgy feeling that, how am I going to react? What am I going to do? What am I going to supposed to tell this person? So understanding that many times respond that we are not exposed to the culture or to that, then I thought, well, it's not people's blame to blame. Yeah, they might make mistakes. We all make mistakes, right? We all do make mistakes. But then what is my role here? If I'm going to feel offended and mad, I'm going to end up crazy. What am I going to do? How am I going to stand up to this without fighting and really helping to ease this? So I didn't know how to do it, but then I was volunteering in the career fair here in the university, and I met Aaron. Our beloved Aaron. And I said, you know what? I'm going to tell you something. You need a show about Latin America, but in English. And he said, no, but we have a Spanish show. I said, no, you need one in English, where people can be exposed to content and we can ease the way both ways. And the rest is history. He convinced me, he trained me, and here I am.
About that, NCRA staff, one of my main projects was promoting Francophonie toward English audience. That means we did that in English most of the time, but I was surprised to see, because our main contact with the staff management of the station, but how it was hard to find producer develop program about that, even if it well paid, because we were funded by the government. $500 for a producer to produce 28 minutes only about la francophonie in English, and 1,000 for the station. But it was hard. We have 100 station members, just 30 stations really involved about that. And we made a lot of promotion. That means people cannot, it was surprised to see, if I understand it, people, English speaking people, etc., French matters that not in their mind and cannot, it's hard for them to accept that link between open to another community, and even if it paid. And the program was made promotion, everything in English, but I cannot really understand what she's saying, telling that it's really important. And we have a counterpart, another association francophone. They're doing it in French. Our main mandate is doing it in English, but it's hard to find the members involved. And what I recommend here is, because our main contact is mandatory to communicate primarily with the station members, but we have a website. You as a producer, you should go to our website. There is a section on the right, project. You have look at it. There's some project will interest you, and then ask for information. We'll give you information. And that's really about interculturality.
How much do you say?
Even if you're the Latin community, we were open we still open to the community Latin to produce content in Spanish about La Francophonie. Even that, it's hard to find them. They go, I'm gonna speak Spanish, but in La Francophonie different from me. I don't understand, I could speak to in Spanish, but we're open to that. But the program is still on, but 1 year funding only. That means it's ending in August. If you want to do it quick, it's still on. And I don't know, we're trying to find something else because the government, they don't accept, you know that, 2 years in a row. But maybe you can come up with an idea, we can come up with a proposal to the government around La Francophonie.
Well, I think it's a fantastic idea and fits in the situation now. Thank you for saying that. I think we're going to work something out.
And it's a call for your show also. You could speak in English about the link between Latin American and La Francophonie, and come up with a show.
Big time.
Yeah, and you paid for that.
How do you navigate when you have a guest that's self-conscious about their English speaking? Because that's something I've come up against a lot, where I make it very clear that if people that I meet at these community centers want to talk to each other instead of me, that I can just engineer. They can speak in their language, absolutely. Some people have taken me up on that, but a lot of them would prefer to talk to me because they want someone to ask them questions, because they, otherwise don't know what they talk about, but they're self-conscious that, like, especially compared to my voice as a native English speaker, that they're going to sound silly, or that that their English isn't good enough, even though a lot of the time it's incredible. But no matter how much you say that, like, have you encountered that where people?
Well, I encountered it many times with many people, and I said, you hear my English, my own English might not sound like good enough. Might not. So I think I'll be easier than you.
I guess, yeah.
But having said this, I also have seen the interviewers here in CIBL, when Aaron, for example, said, please do the show, and I was like, with my English? I was so insecure. I did some radio in Peru in Spanish, but in English, oh come on, I don't think my English is good enough. but he helped me overcome that, right? Plus, if the show is about Latin America and I'm talking about, it's expectable that the person's gonna have an accent. Because even the most perfect proficient speaker will always have a bit of an accent on an edge in the intonation, right? There are programs especially devoted to work 4 hours in a year to eliminate the accent, and you still cannot eliminate it all. Thank God, right? So I think that you just repeat like Aaron, no, your English is good enough. I understand you. And something I did a couple of times with some people that have really started their knowledge of English in advance, right? I mean, starting to advance their English. You see, I made a mistake now. Again, I said, you know, if you feel uncomfortable, you make a sign, we stop, or I'll help you. Do you mind if I help you? And I help them, like they're struggling with the word, and you mean this or you mean that. I start throwing options. I get this.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I wrote down in the board my email address. I'm in charge of it. If you want to benefit from that $500,
oh yeah,
go ahead. About what is the main goal of that? The link between the different communities through la francophonie. Let's say, for example, you have a pair, like the husband is Anglophone, the woman Francophone, how they communicate each other, and things like that. You know, Francophone parents sending the kid to the Anglophone school, what is the challenges. I don't know, there's many of subjects that you can, as long as it touch la francophonie. Go ahead, we're gonna return the money because we're getting there. If you want to not lose it, go ahead.
Well, I want you to hear the Paraguayan band singing in Guarani. Here they are. I love this.
What was the language?
This is Guarani, actually it's Yopara. Yopara is Guarani, the indigenous language from Paraguay, with some Spanish thrown in, because some words in Guarani they don't have it, right? So for Paraguayans, their official language is Spanish and Guarani. So they flip from one language to the other, they don't even notice, and they have this Yopara, which is a local dialect. Right? Yeah, you go to the airport, everybody speaks in Guarani, right?
This is really weird because Guarani always sounds so sweet.
Yeah.
They have such a sweet way to speak. I don't know if you have a clip of Guarani because it's really strange.
It's very sweet. Well, I'm gonna give you my email. This is my personal email. Send me an email and I'll send you the PowerPoint and the playlist link and the translation of the Aymara rap song. I have the other one of my show. I Heart Latin America, all one word, at yahoo.com as well. And okay, let me see if I found Guarani.
Don't worry.
Okay.
Tinha um amigo dela já se não tinha por meio a Jushame, Argentina, me probó más suerte. Ahora, ¿cómo te familia te conara con amor? Y con mi mamá o vamos a cultura ante esa época. A esa abuela se pai, pero a veces ya pensar mal con ella tiene familia, a recordar de familia la a hija coape. Pero a la vez, a la vez la vulgar. A se pai la ya no se lo tiene claro, pero ya pensamos en el futuro más importante.
Yeah, absolutely sweet, eh? Yeah. Well, again, thank you for coming. Thank you for paying attention, for participating. To you, glad to you for being here. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Email me, connect me through Facebook, LinkedIn. I don't have Instagram or Twitter. Keep in touch. I'd love to hear from you later. Any feedback, suggestion, criticism, I'm open.
Thank you. Yeah, it really was super impactful. Yeah, totally. You've got some really interesting ideas. Thank you. Because